Welcome to the Nevada Department of Wildlife's Introduction to Fly Tying class. I'm Jan Nemec, and I'll be your instructor through this 6-part series. In Lesson 1, we'll learn the basics. In Lesson 2, we'll tie the woolly bugger streamer. Lesson 3, we'll build on those basics. Lesson 4, we'll tie the hare's ear nymph. Lesson 5, the pheasant tail nymph. And finally, we'll finish Lesson 6 with the basic ant dry fly. This course is designed to give you the most solid foundation in the art of fly tying. Let's start with the fly tying vise. Here we have two different styles. We have a pedestal base and a C-clamp. Biggest difference between the two is the C-clamp needs a table to clamp onto, whereas the pedestal base tends to be a little more versatile. In addition to the bases, we also have a standard neck and a rotary design. Our standard neck is just set to stay in place, whereas the rotary design allows you to view the fly 360 degrees without altering its position. In addition to that, the actual jaws themselves, on this back one we have a cam jaw or a locking jaw, whereas our front vise, more basic design, has a spring-loaded jaw, which allows you to take the fly in and out. Our basic toolkit should include a bobbin, which is a thread holder. The only adjustment on the bobbin is to loosen or bend out the wire, or tighten and bend back in the wire. That allows you to control the amount of tension or pull that it takes to bring thread off the spool. Next tool is a pair of scissors. Pretty cut and dry. Sharp is excellent. You want to try to avoid cutting metal objects or hard objects with the tips. They tend to dull pretty quick. We also have a straw. This is our whip finishing tool, or our half hitch tool, or finishing knot tool. This will be used to apply the final knot onto the fly. If you don't have a coffee straw, a pin will work just fine. Or, on the end of this needle or bodkin, there's actually a half hitch tool on the back of that. Bodkin's a good handy tool to have for applying glue to different parts, specific parts or pieces of the fly, as well as picking or making minor detail adjustments. Finally, we have our adhesive. This is super glue. Pretty easy to use, deep penetrating, so it tends to seal and definitely hold the fly together pretty well. The one thing you want to be careful with those adhesives is some of them have a tendency to melt plastic and foam. To secure our hook into our vise, we're going to grasp just the bottom quarter of our hook bin while keeping the shank parallel or horizontal to the ground. Our beginning thread wraps start with our bobbin. I'm going to place it, my pointer finger and my thumb, on the resting flat part and start my wraps. I'm going to hold my tag or my short end below the fly and bobbin above. I'm going to push the thread against the fly and start wrapping in a clockwise motion if you're looking at the fly. I'm going to continue to wrap and actually start to wrap from the right side to the left while covering up the tag, and continue to do so down the length of the shank. When I get it a little ways down, I know it's secure, I can trim that tag. To start our fly, we're going to build a foundation underneath any area that is going to be covered in material. This helps that material from sliding around on the metal hook. Our finishing knot, or how we finish the fly, is going to be with our coffee straw or pin. We're going to go ahead and make 2 wraps from right to left on that coffee straw, and then I'm going to bring the end of the straw up over the eye and pull those 2 wraps off. That actually is setting a double half hitch on the fly, which will allow you to cut the thread without it coming unraveled. From here, we put a small amount of adhesive or super glue to ensure that it doesn't come unraveled. Now let's learn how to secure materials to the hook. With our foundation built across the entire shank, I'm going to show what's called the pinch. To tie this in, I'm going to place the material in between my left hand, my pointer finger, and my thumb, creating a valley in between the two. I then will place that valley on top of the shank and kind of gently secure it and place wraps over the end of it. Another method is called the diagonal drop. This method tends to be more popular with tying in hackles and materials that aren't straight down the back. This method, we're going to take the material that we're tying in, place it in front of the fly or in front of the shank at about a 45-degree angle. From this point, we'll make some light wraps and slowly increase the tension and secure. Ahead of our next lesson, let's take a look at what we need to put together our first fly, the woolly bugger streamer. Start with thread. We have 140 denier or 3/0 in olive. As far as hooks go, we're going to use a size 4 or size 6 streamer hook. Really the idea is just bigger is better, easier to learn on. One thing to point out on our hooks, we have our size indicated, we also have quantity, a model number, and finally, most boxes or bags of hooks are going to come with what type of fly they're made for. This one happens to be streamer, and here on the edge it has the length of the shank, the length of the hook itself. Next up, for our tail of our woolly bugger, we'll be using marabou. This happens to be strung marabou, pretty widely available. Again, olive, and we have our chenille. The body of our woolly bugger is chenille. Again, an olive. And finally, for our hackle, or this material that's flared out around the fly, we're going to use either a strung saddle hackle or feathers from an actual saddle. This happens to be a woolly bugger saddle.